Hi, and welcome to the Active Code podcast, brought to you by Aspire Active Partnerships. I'm Paul Griffiths, and joining me each week on the pod is Luke Johnson.
Aspire Active Partnerships is a community of like-minded business leaders who all believe that collaboration in the sports coaching and children's activity sector is essential for success. We've proven that working in collaboration does benefit business growth and essentially helps more children be more active more often.
To combat physical inactivity, we need organisations that are performing at their very best. Organisations will only operate to high standards if they are led well. So, we can focus on developing high-quality leaders throughout an organisation, not just at the top. Customers will experience higher quality services, which means heightened enjoyment levels and increased levels of physical activity. And if we do this at an early age, we know that we can build the foundations for a more active, happier, and healthier life. The Active Code investigates what it really takes to be a successful leader and how organisations can combat physical inactivity.
We won't be alone through this journey. We are joined by business owners and experts from our sector, as well as inspirational people from outside our industry. We'll understand the importance of physical activity to our guests, reflect on leadership experiences, and gain thought-provoking insights on how we can crack the Active Code, get more children more active more often. If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and subscribe. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest for this episode, Andrea Springthorpe, who joins us from Legacy Sport. Andrea is a passionate advocate for leading a healthy, active lifestyle, and she has spent her entire life inspiring others to do the same. Andrea shares her early career experience in marketing, transition into the physical activity space, and her leadership experiences at Legacy Sport and Fit for Force. Enjoy the pod.
Andrea, welcome to the Active Code podcast. We always start a pod with the guests just telling us a little bit more about their professional journey. Over to you.
Yeah, I think my background is probably slightly different to those in the coaching sector. So I came more from a sort of a sales, marketing. I've worked in planning and logistics. And then when I was 28, I thought, I don't want to be doing this forever. It was got to the point where you're getting up on a morning, dreading going to work. So I'd always had the idea that I wanted to go to university to be a PE teacher because I did my A-levels, but then never went to university. I applied for a course at Huddersfield University as a mature student, and that was on an exercise, physical activity and health degree. I did my work placement in a secondary school, and then that was the decision that I didn't want to be a PE teacher. So I'd quit my full-time job, and there I was thinking, what am I actually going to do? So throughout my course, we had the opportunity to do our gym instructing, personal training. But at the time I did it because we got it at a discounted rate, but not really thinking I would go down that road. I dabbled with the idea of joining the forces and then thought, no, I don't really want to be bunking down with 18-year-olds at nearly 30 years old. So I actually started my own fitness training company, sort of inspired from the forces because I thought there was nothing out there that got people ready to do the fitness training that you needed to get through the physical assessments. So from 2011, I launched Fit for Force, which is my bootcamp business, which is still ongoing today. It was always ever done part-time around other work as well. And from there, one of my friends actually approached me, who was a primary school teacher, said, do you fancy doing, it was like for their summer events, a bootcamp session with the kids. Like, okay, we'll give it a go. And then from there, it actually grew. So I started doing after school clubs. And then I was put in touch with Legacy Sport, where I currently am now, and went on board there as a coach. That then since has developed. Sean and Johnny, who were fellow directors, knew we were on the same lines with business and how I wanted to go forward. So then I came on board as a director. So that was in 2015, I think. Been there 7 years now. So yeah, that's how it's progressed. So I still run a couple of boot camps a week and then work full time with Legacy.
What's your day-to-day role look like, Andrea, at Legacy?
So my role is I deal with the finance side and a bit of a mixed bag really. Finance, operations, a bit of sales and marketing. So yeah, we deal with any school contracts, all the finances for contracts, wages. Like I suppose most small businesses, quite a varied role.
Just a quick one, going back to when you're in sales and marketing, Andrea, before the kind of physical activity roles. Was there anything from those days that you've managed to bring forward to Legacy? You've mentioned you do some sales and marketing now at Legacy. Is there anything from like your past that you've managed to translate into this sector?
You're testing my memory now. It is a long time ago, Lou. So yeah, I mean, my main role, I was worked for a furniture manufacturer for I was there 10 years. Started just as an administrator, then worked up to sales team leader. So I worked closely with the sales reps, sales directors. So they slightly different sector, works slightly different, but in the main we had around the country 4 or 5 sales reps who went round hotels, nursing homes to sell our furniture. But I was all office based. We did a lot of conferences, exhibitions. And yeah, and I think a lot of what we had just before I left the company, we were putting processes in place. We had CRM systems and I think and tracked everything. So every conversation, every quote, every contract was done through this system. So if somebody was off, they could see it. So I think it's taking that and bringing it forward into a new sector, a new company. There is synergy there. I think trying to compare selling an actual physical product to a service is quite different. And I think we all know we're probably working in quite a tough sector, getting into primary schools compared to someone that needs to, furnish the nursing homes with high back chairs.
You've been at Legacy now, 7 years, you said. So have you noticed a difference from a sales perspective there? You talked about how difficult some organisations find getting into schools to provide their services. Have you seen a difference since you started at Legacy to now?
Yeah. I think this last couple of years has probably been the hardest for us at Legacy. And I think a lot of that is to do with schools saying they've got the lack of budget, which is a big frustration from, I think, all our sides, because we know that they get the sports premium funding. So when I joined Legacy, we had a core base of customers. And I think over the years, we've grown, we've lost a few, we've been static. And I think the change in the landscape, I think now schools are realising that they have to be sustainable and trying to take a lot of that in-house. So that's had a knock-on effect to us, really. So I think in one way, it's a bit of a harder sell for us to get into schools, but then we're trying to offer different services rather than just paying a coach for their time being in school, do the CPD offerings and putting packages together rather than just selling one thing.
And physical activity is, well, your kind of day-to-day in multiple roles. What does it mean to you, Andrea, like on a personal level, physical activity?
On a personal level, for me, it's any movement that keeps the body and the mind healthy. And I've always been into physical activity. I won't necessarily say I've always been into sports. When I was at school, I probably wasn't over keen on PE. I like to do exercise that probably more on my own rather than as a team sport. But I think it's always been part of my parents' life. I've grown up with it. And since becoming a parent myself, I think it's even more important now. I'm that role model to my daughter, Sophia. So yeah, I think when I was younger, I probably didn't realise I was doing physical activity. But then as you got older, it was always just the norm.
And how do you keep active at the moment?
So at the moment, Over the years, I've done various different activities, mainly running. When my first probably structured physical activity, I joined the majorettes when I was 9 years old. But at the time, I didn't see it as physical activity because it was just a hobby. But when I look back, we practiced twice a week. We're at galas, competitions, and doing routines for 30, 40 minutes. It's activity. My mum and dad always ran, and I used to go to watch them in races and think they were bloody nuts, basically. I think, why do people do this for fun? And then when I was in my early 20s, I started running, did my first 10K, and then it just progressed from there. I've done half marathons. And then as I got a bit older and started my degree and my personal training, I'd always done a bit in the gym, gone like once a week with my dad, but then I really got into it. My ex at the time was a PTI in the army as well, so we were always doing things, in the gym, out running. So yeah, now I try to go to the gym on a morning before work, and I run once, twice a week. I've boxed in the past. I teach a boxing boot camp once a week. So yeah, I just vary it really. And I think that's the real thing to try and keep it consistent, is to do something that you enjoy.
And what benefits are you finding from activity? You've obviously done it a hell of a long time, structured, unstructured. But now, especially as a mum and a busy one at that, what benefits does activity bring to you, Andrea?
I think now it's a non-negotiable for me, because it's not, obviously, we all know about the health, the physical benefits, but the mental benefits as well. To me, it sets me up for the day. If I'm having a bad day, you go out for a run, you go out for a walk, you feel better. And I think it's just having that, for me now, it's having that me time. There's times it's more of a struggle. I've trained customers for years, and I used to think, oh, why can't they fit a 40-minute workout in the day or 30 minutes? And as soon as I had Sophia, there's 2 mornings a week where I literally have 20 minutes in the gym. And it'd be so easy not to go, because it's easy just to drop her at nursery and get to work. But I just know that 20 minutes, I have to just be more efficient in that time. I probably get a better workout in that 20 minutes than when I've got an hour before work to go work out. And I just have to get it done.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think numerous people talk about that on the pod, that as you get busier from a work perspective, from a parent's point of view, it's really important that if you want to maintain that kind of healthy lifestyle and feel good, you've got to factor it in. You've almost got to start to schedule it in, which, back in the early days would probably be unheard of. It was just kind of spontaneous activity, wasn't it? Yeah, building that in. And you say it could be the start of a day, it could be the end of a day. Do you factor it in and schedule it into your diary like you would with numerous tasks you've got to complete from a work perspective?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I get up, go to the gym, shower there, and go to work. And if I don't do that, it's very unlikely that it gets done at the end of the day, especially because I teach classes twice a week. So I have to factor that in. So for me, it's getting that done at the beginning of the day. And going back to the other benefits, I think having children, you know how much you need to run around, how much energy you need to actually keep up with them. I was a geriatric mother when I had Sophia, so as I'm getting older, it's not just, as in the past, I've done 6-week plans, 12-week plans, getting this shape, that shape, and actually, yeah, it's great, it gives you a goal, but it's that longevity, and I'm training. I keep saying I'm training for my old lady body now, and it's got to keep going.
Then from a parent's point of view, is Sophia active because of you being active? So you talk about you folks being active and you then almost being a role model without you really knowing, probably when you were younger. So is that kind of having the same knock-on effect?
Yeah, she's the only 3-year-old that I know will just get down and do burpees in the kitchen for fun. But joking aside, I think so when before I had a Sunday mornings was always like my social run that I've got close friends with, and we always used to go out for a run. Throughout pregnancy, that sort of, I started walking or waddling a bit. And then as soon as I had And as soon as I could get back to running, one of us would walk with the pram, the others would do intervals and come back. And then as soon as she was able to go in a running buggy, I've run with her ever since. So she, every Sunday morning, not every, but most Sunday mornings, she's out running with myself. She now wants to run at the side of the pram, which is great. If I can't get a sitter when I want to go to the gym, I go to I also do a bit of CrossFit. So it's a gym where I can take her with me. She'll sit at the side, she'll watch. She often comes to my boot camp with me now. Not sure that's great when she's trying, if she starts trying to hit other kids at nursery, but she hasn't so far, so that's safe. So yeah, she just sees that it's normal, a normal part of
It is
life.
modeling that behaviour, aren't you? Yeah, like 2 to 10 years of age is so important in terms of behaviours that children are learning, and then getting into an activity habit, it becomes natural. So they naturally become active. So if you look at it from those children that may grow up with parents that aren't active, or they don't engage in activity at school, whether it's activity, sport, how do you think we should be promoting activity to those children in particular?
I think it's trying to promote it from, a lot of it, like you say, starts at home with the parents. However, I think we've got a role to show that those children that don't have those role models, that it should be part of everyday life. You get up and brush your teeth every day. Why do we not get up and move every day? And I think, I'm not saying there's an easy answer. I don't know the answer to it fully, because I think we've got quite a long way to go. But I think it's showing them that this is normal. And actually, if you want a healthy life, not just physically, but mentally, because that's a massive thing at the moment, you need to move. Your body needs to move. And your traditional classrooms don't always promote that either. They're sat down, and hence why there's programs like English on the Move, Maths on the Move. Kids need to be moving. We know ourselves, if we're sat for too long, mentally you switch off. You just need to get that blood flow going and get oxygen to your brain. And yes, I don't know if I've answered that question, but it's a tough one to crack, I think.
And we've spoken about role models, Andrea. Who's been the most inspirational role model or leader that you've worked with?
Now, I wrote the answer to this question, and this was written down before I'm going to answer it. And I'm not just saying this, but I think working with you guys at Aspire has been brilliant. I think collaborating with yourselves and other coaching organisations across the UK has just brought so much to the sector. So yeah, from a work point of view, yeah, you too.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's very nice.
So I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that. Thanks, Andrea. But definitely get the money wide across after the podcast. It's on just from that perspective though, to talk about the network there, and some people may not be aware of the network. What in particular has been positive about that from your experience around that whole collaboration piece, as opposed to competing, as most people would see in the past?
Yeah, and I think when we first got invited down to Aspire, I can't remember how many years ago it was, there was that sort of suspicion of, why is somebody in the same sector inviting us down to... You're always probably a bit guarded, and then obviously as it's developed over the years, I think the collaboration is brilliant, because you're bouncing ideas off somebody that's in the same sector. You can talk to many people in business, you can talk to different leaders. I've had business coaches over the years, but they're not all working within the same sector. And I think, like I touched on previously, we are working with schools which are probably one of their own compared to your standard businesses. So you get different ideas, you get support, help, share those frustrations, share good ideas. When I did the Accelerate program last year, that just helped me so much develop as individually, and also take that back to our business as well.
Cool. Thanks for the sales pitch, Andrew.
That's the next why you're coming over.
And on to you as a leader then, Andrea. like you said before, you've had many roles in many different environments, I guess. If we asked one of your colleagues at Legacy today, what does Andrea's leadership style look like? What would they say?
I confess I actually cheated on this because I was really stuck on that question. So I did actually ask Nathan, and he said proactive rather than reactive.
Very good. Brilliant.
Have you got any examples on that? Or is that what he said?
That's all I got back. So, okay, well, I'll make note of that.
So have you got any examples of that where you've been a proactive leader rather than reactive? Have you had time to think about that?
No, I haven't. But I suppose being put on the spot, I think it's more trying to, I suppose it's that planning side and trying to be strategic with things. So everything is in place if something does happen. There's a procedure for it, or we've got a backup, or this is what we do next. I'm not saying that happens in every situation, but the more you can plan something, the easier it is if something does go wrong.
The phrase, what gets measured gets managed, was coined by the American management consultant Pete Drucker over 40 years ago. Although there have been some alternatives to this phrase, one that resonates with me is what gets measured gets improved.
In recent years, this alternative phrase has gained popularity, emphasising the idea that measuring progress is crucial to achieving improvement.
Scorecards are a great way to highlight your strengths and identify blind spots in your organisation while providing instant, actionable steps on how you can improve that needs improving.
So, how does your organisation measure up?
Head to capscorecard.scoreup.com and take approximately 5 minutes to answer some yes/no questions. Once you've done that, you will get an instant personalised report tailored to your organisation with clear, actionable steps. And it's totally free.
That's capscorecard.scoreup.com, and the link will be in the show notes too. Yeah. And with regards to your leadership at the moment, so is there anything in particular you've identified, or Nathan maybe has identified, or someone else in the team has identified, where you want to get better? You've got to improve and be a better leader.
I think when I was looking through the questions, the thing that I reflected on the most was probably working on myself. And I think this goes across the board at work, at home, when I'm running my fitness sessions. I think the better version of myself that I can be, then that only cascades down to being a better leader or better role model. So yeah, I think probably from a personal journey at the minute, I think it's trying to probably work on a bit of my motivation again to get that back, because I think there's times when in whatever we do, you can't be 100% all the time, and I think I have felt that dip, and I think I need to get that back to being probably on an even keel for myself to then be better at work.
And Andrew, you've got a team of Legacy, and I know in Legacy, like you referenced in terms of your journey, you started off down the coaching pathway, then you progressed to a kind of director level, and I know within you've got those opportunities for progression. So when you do have a leader that you want to develop at Legacy, what kind of process do you go through? What things do you want to instill in those people?
Yeah, I think we're currently on a similar journey with another member of staff at the moment, and they're giving them some responsibility, looking after certain areas, certain tasks, and then getting them to feed back to the management team, and then look at how they then can progress. And I think it's probably trying to let go of the reins slightly in certain areas and letting somebody take responsibility for it, but knowing that they've got the backup of the management team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a risk, isn't there, that you let the reins go too much and they don't have that person to go to or report, like you said, report back to, or bounce ideas off along the way. So do you have scheduled reviews with those people or check-ins when they initially take on a role like that?
Yeah, So one current member of staff, we're looking at promoting him. So we've given him tasks to do, to report back, and then invite him to directors' meetings sort of every so often. So yeah, there's timescales that we're building for that.
Perfect. In terms of your time, let's take your time at Legacy in your current role. What would you say your biggest challenge has been so far?
I think it's probably not always being able to just run with things when I sort of get an idea. So I think, so going back to my fitness company, there's only ever been me. If I get an idea, I just run with it, give it a go. Where I think when you're in business with other people, it's not just a one person decision, which is great. But then on the other side, it can cause a slight frustration if I'm wanting to think, right, there's this way, and it's not always agreed on. And I'm not saying it's always that mine's the right way, but I think that's sometimes a bigger challenge when there's not just yourself to answer to.
So that's your biggest kind of challenge you've experienced so far in your role at Legacy. What would you say your proudest achievement is so far?
At Legacy or just in
general?
general? Okay, I think my proudest achievement so far is my daughter, Sophia. So Sophia's actually a donor baby, so I had her on my own. So to go ahead and have her was a big thing. So yeah, she's proudest. So I'm getting emotional.
How about from a work perspective, Angie? So from a legacy point of view, if you were to look back over the last 7 years, whilst Sophia is clearly the standout achievement, but from a work point of view, what's the proudest achievement been in that kind of 7-year career at Legacy?
I think starting with the company as a coach, and then progressing to becoming a director, that's a proud achievement. And I see as a big achievement. So yeah, that's something that I'm really proud of.
Can I ask from an Accelerate point of view, Andrea? You mentioned you took part in the Accelerate program over a 12-month period. Throughout that kind of 12-month journey, what were you most proud of from that experience?
Most proud of? There's so many things that I could talk about the Accelerate program, which have been fantastic. I suppose for me it was to complete the process, and it's something which, from a personal level, I would have wanted to carry on into this academic year. I think there was so much that I learned from business, because from all the other businesses that were on the Accelerate course, and obviously yourselves, but I think from a personal growth perspective as well, I think it makes you look at yourself as well, not just your business, but the majority of us are our business. I think it helped me grow in confidence, and probably gave me the confidence to think that, a lot of things can be improved, but there's a lot of things that are being done well at the same time. And I think sometimes when you're in your day-to-day business, you don't see what you're actually doing, or perhaps your own self-worth, and you just get bogged down with the day-to-day stuff. So I think that has been probably that's highlighted that actually there's things that I'm proud of that are going okay. So
as part of the journey, we talk about having that time for yourself, but to work more on the business, like you referenced. Sometimes you get trapped in it and you blink at those points. Since the program, have you managed to schedule that time in to work on the business a bit more than what you perhaps did before the program?
Honestly, yes, I did to start with. I had a new schedule. It was all planned out. And then I think this academic year, because we've had a few staffing challenges, a few changes with delivery, probably it's not being ring-fenced as much as I would like it to be. However, I think moving forward, there's definitely times in my weekly schedule that can be put back in and ring-fenced.
I know you've experienced in other sectors before coming into the sector. Is there anything from those previous experiences or looking at other sectors at the moment and how they operate that you think could help improve activity levels within our space and the wider society?
Yeah, when I was thinking about this question, obviously one thing that I can relate it to, which I have more knowledge on, is the fitness industry. And I think over the years that has progressed from going back in the day, if you wanted a personal trainer, you had to be on site in a gym and trading time for money. And I think now it's more, probably since COVID and as technology's progressed, it's more accessible for people. So I think probably using apps, technology, the gamifying, making it a bit more fun, adding a bit of challenges, competitions into there, which I know that can be put out there in schools. And I think there are things coming along in the market. I think it's for anybody now, whether it's teachers trying to do PE in schools, whether it's somebody that's wanting to work on their own fitness levels, time is a massive constraint for a lot of people. So I think it's making it as simple as possible and as easy and accessible as possible. And then I was thinking of the corporate side. They have a lot of wellness policies in place. They have gyms on site. And I think it's just schools. I think we've touched on this before. I don't know if it was a conference or another call about schools having their own wellness policy. Should that be in there? Not just, we're talking about students, but one of their main role models is teachers in schools. How active are they? So I think it's looking at a broader space, really.
I guess on the school side of things as well, you touched on there, if we need, and it seems really obvious, but people that aren't involved in the sector probably don't see it, but if we want more children to be more active in our primary schools, then we need a workforce that is fit for purpose. And that's not just fit in terms of skills and knowledge. We're talking about the kind of the wellness and the health and wellbeing side of things. It's going back to what you said at the start, that positive role models and modeling the behavior that we want our children to follow. But at the moment, I think a day, is it, in a PGCE year that is focused on PE? So we're not going to have a workforce in schools that is going to be confident, competent enough to actually set those children up to be active. So that's the starting point. So combine that with the policy, if you like. But no doubt we'll hear plenty about over the next 12 months with election stuff going on again. So I completely understand that and resonate with that. And it's somewhere that it needs to change, because that's been spoken about now for probably 15, 20 years. And with more teachers leaving teaching than ever before, then it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So the sooner we can address that, then the more likelihood is that we're starting to get positive, active behaviour in those foundational years, which is crucial. But we're just going around in circles a little bit, which is a bit frustrating. But I guess that's where our sector comes into it. We need to make sure that we've got workforces that can support, and as well as do. And I know that there's a fine line between supporting and doing in primary schools with teachers and the use of premium funding, etc. But my opinion, it's better to have people supporting in schools and delivering the doing as opposed to nothing at all, because there are too many people I know in schools that just don't want to do it. They're just switched off. So as we come to the back end of the pod, Andrea, so if listeners want to enhance any skills and knowledge around leadership or business, is it any books, podcasts, or people that you may recommend?
Yeah, there's a few books, plenty of books over the years, but I think one is Start With Why. I think whatever we do anything, there's got to be a reason behind it. So that's a great book to read. I follow Stephen Bartlett on LinkedIn. I think some of his content is brilliant. And then one book, which is totally way out there at the moment, I've just started reading. It's called Project 369. But this is probably more on a personal development, because this is more about your unconscious and law of attraction kind of book. Only partway through it, but so far it's been brilliant. But going back to what I was saying about working on myself, and then that cascades down to whatever we're doing in our daily lives, working lives, I think that helps. But yeah, did I mention they ask you answer? And I know it's something that you guys read as well.
Brilliant. And final question, Andrea, the $1 million question. What one thing do organisations need to do in our sector to crack the active code and get more children more active more often?
Just one thing.
Just the one thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of this, and I know we can't do this, but it has to come from top down, and I think it's trying to make it a priority. We'll all see in schools that PE gets pushed down, even though there's this ring fence funding. So I think it's just trying to raise the profile of PE, trying to make it fun and engaging. And I think and putting standards against it, which obviously seems working very hard to do. Yeah, I think it's just making what we do as an industry more important.
Thanks so much, Andrea. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Via email, probably. Shall I say that now?
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so it's andrea@legacysport.co.uk.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Yeah, really appreciate you taking time out to talk to us. Thank you again for saying that we are the most inspirational leaders that you've ever met and spoke to. In all seriousness, I do really appreciate that, and we will get that money transferred across. No, thank you. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Keep doing the great work that you're doing, both with your daughter and with Legacy and in the sector. And we haven't really spoke about this on the pod, but I think it's great. The more women we can get involved in our sector, the better. It's just, it's really not where it should be. Keep up the great work and keep making an impact.
Great.
Cheers,
thank
Andrea.
you.
To subscribe to the pod, search for The Active Code on your podcast app. Let's work together to get more people more active more often.